Well, hard times bring out the best in people, and one of the amazing things that has happened over the last few years as some people have faced some very hard times is we've seen some really remarkable people stepping up and getting active in some really remarkable ways. We heard about the Billboard Battalion earlier in this episode. Well, now I want to bring you up to speed with a story that most of you have heard of in some capacity at some point in time. I want to bring you up to date with what's going on with the one and only Monica Smit. How are you?
I am great. Thanks for having me on. And congratulations on the new show.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, we, of course, had a bit to do with each other. We were both involved in what I call the Battleground Melbourne era. You were incredible in standing firm against phenomenal pressure that you and Nick Patterson, I believe, were the only two people that spent extended stints in prison. In your case, it was purely because you stood your ground against the bail conditions that they, completely unjust bail conditions that they brought against you. Just in case there's anyone watching that doesn't know that story, what's sort of the Cliff Notes version of what happened to you, and where are things at with all of that now?
So pretty much I was arrested for incitement because I promoted a protest during lockdown. That is it. The bail conditions were so onerous, I wouldn't have even been able to speak against the COVID restrictions in the privacy of my own home, along with curfews from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. And note that I am still on bail to this day. So I could not, in good faith, sign those bail conditions. That's why I went to prison. And then in the Supreme Court, they were all those onerous bail conditions were taken away. Then 6 months later, the police took out a warrant to force me to give them password access to everything on the phones that they still have in their custody, by the way. So Google Docs, Google Drive, Google Maps, all that sort of stuff. It was a massive intimidation tactic. I said no to those. I said no to that warrant. No worries, I'll go back to prison if I have to. I'm not giving up my entire database.
Can I stop you there? You say no worries, I'll go back to prison if I have to. How many days had you already spent in prison, and how many in solitary confinement?
22 days in solitary confinement the whole time.
I mean, you say that like it's just such a simple, no worries, I'll go back to prison. That was an incredible moment. For the second time around, you stood your ground against the sorts of intimidation that most Australians would never believe even happens in Australia.
Well, I will say I am in a very unique position as well. I have no children and I have a very supportive family. During COVID, I never lost any friends, any family. I didn't lose a job. So I was in a unique position. I was the right person for it, and I was blessed to be in that position, and I'd do it again. That is why I took such a strong stand, because I could mentally, physically, emotionally, and things like that. I couldn't have withstood some of the things that you went through, Topher, in your own personal life, and some of the things that a lot of other people went through. So I just think I was in a unique position. But yes, in some respect, of course, it was courageous, but I was really happy to do it. But a week after I said no to giving them my passwords, they withdrew the charges. So it was just a tactic, really. But yes, as you alluded to, I have a court case in 4 days, on Monday. And these are just 2 COVID fines, but they are attached to the same charge sheet. So it's actually really pivotal for me, because I will get off bail for the first time in a year and a half. So even though it's just 2 COVID fines, it's really important.
And look, this is something that a lot of people don't want to acknowledge. They want to pretend like COVID is some piece of ancient history, like all of these Dan Andrews press conferences and all of the protests and all of the craziness. This, by the way, we're watching footage from the documentary Battleground Melbourne, which, Monica, you were very, very kind to be in. And you can watch that in full for free at battlegroundmelbourne.com. A lot of people want to put this into the ancient past, but there are an enormous number of people, some of whom we've already interviewed here on the Aussie Wire. Myself, personally, I'm still up on criminal charges for incitement. I believe I'm the last one that they're still pursuing for incitement. You've managed to, in some senses, get off those charges, but the reason they dropped those charges was because you'd already spent a month in prison. You'd already done your time and then some. And so the impact of what's been done is very much ongoing and lingering. But for you, sorry, yeah?
Well, I'll say that, I put on a brave face all the time because I feel like I have to. But it's been extremely traumatic for me in my life. And when these charges are over, I'm obviously gonna have to go after them, because justice must be had. And when I'm going after them, they can't withdraw.
That's right.
I'm gonna be the one in charge, and I have to do that for the people. So the point is, this is gonna be a 5-year-long process, and just keep in mind, it was all because I had an audience and I put a poster online. Now, my one question to the audience would be, Topher, that if we are in a communist society, then at least tell us. Tell us so that we know what we're dealing with. But don't pretend to be in a democracy and put someone like me, a tax-paying citizen, into this situation for 5 years. Don't pretend, just tell me, and then you can put whoever you want in prison, and then we'll know what's going on.
Truth.
But this is...
Yeah, look, you're absolutely right, and there is an awful lot of trauma out there, myself included. I've had to work through a lot over the last couple of years, still working through a lot. Someone like yourself, it's very, very real. Many others, that's the case as well. But you're not taking it lying down. You've just said that to us. You're going to be fighting back, but you are a part of what is almost like a global movement that's begun happening now. Tell us a bit more about that.
So We Are Ready was meant to be a once-off event, from what I understand. It's all based around the Bilderberg Club, which they're meeting in Lisbon, Portugal on that weekend on the 20th of May. And so some bright spark thought, why don't we make a global event around it to tell the globalists in a subliminal way that we are ready. Like, hurry up, we're done with it, bring it on. We're not scared anymore. And I feel like this sort of messaging is actually more powerful than you could imagine. And if it can resonate throughout the world, it's going to dissipate a lot of fear and start people preparing instead of being scared. So that's where it all started, is the Lisbon event. And then it's just grown from there. And to be honest, I think it's shocked everyone. It's probably going to end up being about 170 events globally. And I will just say that the event is very varied. There's an event in Canada where you have to hike for an hour and a half to get there. Some of the event, it's awesome. Some of the events are in a bunker. Some of the events you have to email someone to get the address. So they're extremely varied. Some are rallies, but the organizers of the event, they're brandless and faceless for a reason, to promote unity, and they're encouraging people to collect email addresses on the day, because I think, a big rally is amazing in itself, but if you can somehow collect email addresses and stay connected, now that is powerful. A group of 3 people can change the world. One can, but 3 is going to be easier. So that's the whole focus around it. It's about the attitude and the messaging, and it's also about connecting people to stay connected, not just a once-off rally.
Well, I don't remember the exact quote, but it's been said that a tireless minority is all it takes to change the world, and in fact, it's the only thing that ever has. And so the key for us is to be tireless. We know we're a minority. That's a given at the moment. We are getting bigger every day, though, but we have to be tireless, and we have to keep pushing on. Monica, I have enormous respect for all that you've done in the past, all that you're continuing to do. If people want to find out more about yourself, what you're doing, and also these We Are Ready events, where would they go?
Well, We Are Ready is just weareready.world, and I run Reignite Democracy Australia and Reignite Freedom. And soon I will have a website, monicasmit.com, so that everything I do is in one place, because it's kind of fragmented. I'm really a part of a lot of different things. We also have a campaign called accessdeathstats.com, which are bringing together the access mortality around the world into one page. So there's a lot of things going on. So if you follow any of those, Monica Smit, on any of social media or whatever, you will get all my stuff.
It sounds like we're going to have another chat here on the Aussie Wire about that, accessdeaths.org. But Monica, more power to you. Thank you so much for coming on the Aussie Wire. I wish you all the very best with your court case coming up next week, and also with everything that you do beyond that point.
Thanks, Topher. I appreciate it, and good luck.